Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Fight Talk Live. Now, this is an impromptu but a necessary episode. It will be hosted by myself, Base the Kid, and the lovely Abs of October Red. We do have Danny Glover somewhere in transit. I'm sure he is probably watching, but he's taken the kids and the wife to carnival, so no doubt he'll be shucking and diving. I'm sure I'm going to see some videos from somebody. I don't know where, but he's hard to miss. So Danny, enjoy yourself. Perrin and everyone else, congrats. And Maestro, shout out to Maestro. He's been MIA, but he's been MIA for a good reason. He's been working on a grassroots gym down in the Bronx, in New York for the kids, publicly funded, a free gym. He showed us some pictures of it the other day. It's looking really good, but that's why he's kind of been MIA. He's been sort of focusing on that, but he did say he will be back with us in September. So, with that being said, Abs, how are you?
All the better for seeing you, Base. And yeah, shout out Maestro because I was just looking at Philip. Why is Maestro still on the thumbnail if he's never here? He's here with us in spirit, and like Base quite rightly said, back in September. But yeah, I like these ones because I was like chilling, and then the message came up, and I was like feeling guilty because you know me, most of the boxing's been abroad, so I hadn't watched it, and I was like, But he was like, listen, there's other stuff to talk about, and I was like, yeah, okay, let's do this.
Okay, so we're gonna ignore the boxing for the time being, ladies and gentlemen. What we're gonna do, there's one I'm gonna put the majority of that on weekend wrap, which will be coming up later on. I'll let everyone know exactly why I didn't do a basis picks or anything else throughout the week. But there is one fight, or one fighter, I should say, that I do want to highlight from this weekend, who I would like to give a shout out to, and that is Abbas Barrel,
Yeah.
who beat Ioannis Tejas for I think it's the interim WBA 154-pound title, which ultimately puts him now on a collision course between the winner of Boots Ennis and Uema Lima, who he's fighting in November, because the winner of that fight will take on Barrier for the interim title, who should then be elevated to full championship if Terence Crawford doesn't come back to the division. But he had a very good performance last night. I thought that Tejas would get consideration on points, but he didn't. Barrial quite suitably beat him up in the fight. It was a nice competitive fight, but beat him up soundly and dropped him in the last 10 seconds of the 12th round to seal the deal. It's a really good fight. If you guys haven't watched it, it's on the zone, on the MVP. It's their very first fight night, so like a Saturday fight night. They've had their prospect series. This is their first actual big card. Yeah, it was a good night. So when you get a chance, highlights are all there for you, Red.
Yeah, I saw the highlights only obviously on IG. I like Abbas. I spoke to him before. Lovely guy, African German descent, signed by Wasserman. So it's good. It's good work. It's nice to see Wasserman out there supporting him. I think Harlem was there with him as well. So yeah, let's see what happens with him next. He's got heart. I mean, I saw. I think his laces loose on his gloves. He was still going at it. I think the ref was enjoying it that much. He didn't want to stop
It
it.
was the tape. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because that was flying all over the place. I saw the bruises on his opponent's face. I think when he was standing up in the corner, so it looked like it was total action. Which, to be fair, Abbas does get into those kind of toe-to-toe fights. We've seen it before with him.
And it was a fight I was actually looking forward to. I like Tejas. I think he's a good young prospect, and obviously
Okay.
he was my knockout of the year in 2023. So yeah, I've got always had high hopes. He can come back. It's a good learning fight. But outside of that, I guess we could say a bit of a congratulations slash commiserations to both Jack Rafferty and Mark Chamberlain for their majority decision draw. I haven't Now I watched the fight, but I fell asleep. I've kind of woke up. I didn't haven't seen the whole thing. I've watched the highlights. So I do need to go back and finish that before weekend wrap. But it was a draw, so 6 rounds apiece. I don't know. Did you watch it? Did you think that was the case? Like, talk to me.
Right. I thought Jack Rafferty was going to win
Hmm.
because I too underestimated Mark Chamberlain. But I believe Jack Rafferty also underestimated Mark Chamberlain. And that came back to bite him on the arse because it was a very good fight. It was toe to toe, a little bit shy to start off with, just getting the range, the usual professional English style that we get from the fighters. Um, but it was a back and forth between the both of them. So I've got to apologise for underestimating Mr. Chamberlain due to his last couple of performances. But I think Jack Rafferty did as well. I think he might look back and a draw's not really satisfying, is it? If you're the loser, then yeah, you can get away with it. But if you know you could have done better and you get a draw, you felt like you did better and you get a draw, I don't think that's a nice pill to swallow. But interesting fight. I haven't watched it in its entirety because I, like you, started watching it, drifted off, come back in, and saw some of the highlights. But it was literally a to and fro fight, even to the point where the commentators, they were split, which was interesting to hear. They were actually fair with what they were saying now. They were actually saying what they see rather than what they'd like to see. And that was really refreshing to hear from the comms because usually they're extremely biased. However, maybe it's because they're usually DAZN Matchroom and this time they're DAZN Queensbury. So there's no real horse in the race for them. So that was very noticeable. I think Frampton, I think he was kind of backing Rafferty. But yeah, it was. But to be fair, Frampton's very on the fence as well. He isn't biased at all. But yeah, commiserations, I'd say, for them. And they're probably going to run that back potentially, a run back to really settle the score. I think they should do any draw. The score should be settled.
Yeah, no, I think a run back makes sense. Although I disagree with your Frampton isn't biased. I think he's been majorly biased in the past.
You reckon?
Yeah, he's given rounds to fighters at times, and I'm like,
How's he
that
done
can
it?
that can only be because you know them, or because that's the
I
house
don't
fighter.
know.
So I've
Okay.
seen it
I
in a
always
couple
find
of
him
fights.
non-biased. I actually like listening to Frampton when he's on comms.
No, I like listening to him on comms,
Mm,
but I'm talking like you will. It's not necessarily what he would do on comms, but if they ever ask him to score a fight, he will
okay.
quite often. The person that's supposed to be the house fighter, they will get
Okay.
certain cards from him, and you're like, how did you come up with that? So, oh, you see, I think there's even comments in the
Yeah,
chats thing.
Alexander said
So,
it.
especially, well, I think one of the biggest ones possibly could have been the most recent was the Usyk Dubois two
Y-
fight,
Yeah.
where there was a couple rounds where he gave uh to Dubois, who no one else in the world saw. But
So that's probably what Don Charles was referring to then when he said a couple of people gave him X, Y, and Z. Fair enough.
maybe
But I did. I was live, so I didn't hear the comms for that one. I'm
that's
gonna
fair.
I'm gonna use that as a cheap defense, but it's a true one.
That's fine. We like defense here. If you can back it up, no matter how weak or strong it is what it is, isn't it?
Oh, base. Before we carry on, can I
Yeah.
shout out a big shout out to Emma Willis? Emma Willis. Obviously, I don't know who you are, but she is really good at breaking down fights, understanding how to score the fights. As she says, she's recovering from the flu. I hope you get better soon. But Emma, seriously, consider setting up your own stuff because you hold a lot of value in the comments that you say, and I like to see. And I'm gonna be naughty again. It's nice to see a female like in this industry, and she knows what she's talking about. She put me to shame 5 out of 7 days of the week, easy. So Emma, for you, get well soon, but seriously consider doing something like this yourself because you're damn good at it.
Yeah, no, shout out to Emma. Um, each and every time I love seeing her in my chat, and she's so raw. Like
Yes.
there's never any filter. It's just
No,
yeah, just a sharp tongue, but it's
I like
very
her
very
style.
enjoyable to watch.
And she can judge fights properly, which is something I can't do.
The thing is, you just choose not to.
I'm gonna learn.
All
Oh,
right.
base, did you get that? I need to send it. I should have put it in the group chat. The WBC have put out on, I think it's the 22nd of August, so it's quite recent.
Mm-hmm.
I got sent it by somebody in the industry where they go over, this new. amendment that's supposed to be put in front of American government about the amendment to the Muhammad Ali Act.
No, I haven't. I didn't receive
All
anything.
right, I'll send it over to you. Have a look at it. But it's quite interesting because Maurizio or WBC, it's from the WBC. They
Yeah.
go back into all the history, how the belt started, why they had to legalize boxing in the US, why the Muhammad Ali Act came into place, and it's so detailed. That's as far as I've got because I don't know if they're going to pose some objections to. Basically, they're saying that the Muhammad Ali Act came in so promoters couldn't monopolize the sport. So I think I know where he's going,
Mm-hmm.
but I haven't got to the end of it again because I think the grave concern of some of these governing bodies, albeit they've got their own dirt, they don't want to see the sport being monopolized. So it's a coincidence that he's wrote a whole document. I will forward it on. I posted it on X and said, have a read. I've got to a certain part, but it is quite lengthy. So yeah, we're in your own time.
Okay. Quickly, people, is my camera gone off? Or can you
Oh
see
yeah,
me?
you paused.
All right, hold on a
I thought you
second.
was that deep in thought with what I was saying.
No,
Emma, you might just be a fan, but you're knowledgeable, and I
hold
don't
on
really
a
like to
sec.
see knowledge go to waste.
All right,
While
bear me one moment.
yeah, yeah, no worries. I'll have a look in the chat because you know I like to look in the chat anyway. I had Rafferty SD in the prediction league, and I thought I was in with a very good shout at that result. Interesting. Like I said, Emma, more than just a fan in my eyes. Toby's telling Emma, get well soon. Right, Alexander, the Muhammad Ali Act doesn't even exist in the UK. I understand that, Alexander. However, with what's happening and the fact that boxing is more linked now than it was before when it comes to obviously, crossing over, etc., with promoters, with investors spending their money in fighters based across the world, I think it will have some kind of crossover because all of the governing bodies, and please correct me if I'm wrong, they're all based in America, and these are the not based in America. Their core is in America, and these are the belts that we fight for in this country, isn't it? So it might not even exist in the UK. However, there will be some sort of knock-on effect from it. So that's why I think we should know about it as well. I'm sure most of you are fans and you watch the American boxing. You know, it's not just me that falls asleep and doesn't watch it. So I think it's good for us to all know. What I'll probably do at the end of this live is I'll probably post it in the chat. I've seen the thumbnail that Base has put up with. So just to let you know, a summary of the topics that we are going to be talking about as Base comes back in. Yeah, Base, I was just catching up on the Muhammad Ali Act, but you're back in. So yeah.
Okay, good stuff. Yeah, sorry about that piece. I don't know what happened there. Right. So, that's enough for the actual, I guess, the action over the weekend. There was four good cards on, to be fair. So anyone who has had a chance or needs a chance, do watch. Um, but we're here primarily for, I guess, two major parts of news. So the first thing, let's go to, Jake Paul and Tank Davis getting their fight signed and agreed, which we had all heard about prior. Um, at the time of the Lamont Roach fight, we all knew that they had actually signed for Jake Paul and Tank straight after that fight. So the idea was supposed to be Tank was supposed to knock out Lamont Roach, Jake Paul was supposed to get in the ring, and then they were supposed to announce that they were going to fight. Initially, I think it was supposed to be October or September of this year, but then it was obviously moved to November now. Um, but
Interesting.
that didn't happen. Lamont Roach sort of spoiled those plans, getting a draw that most people believe he should have won. Tank Davis getting given multiple gift decisions within the actual fight itself, the knockdown not being called, not being disqualified for walking over to his corner, turning his back on his opponent and the referee, head pushing his head out of the ropes, all these different things here and there. So getting the Tank Davis treatment. So plans got scuppered. He was supposed to face Lamont Roach in July. Then they were supposed to fight each other yesterday. Um, as was the date that was sort of quoted on the call sheet, and then all of a sudden all that stuff happened. Tank got he got arrested for alleged
And
domestic abuse charges, which then got retracted and dropped. And then henceforth, from there, we get this. Now, interestingly enough, before we even get to Tank and Jake Paul, I you know me, I know a lot about shenanigans that go on in the States, right? Here's my theory on that, and I think it's true. So he put enacted the rematch clause
mm,
with Lamont Roach to save face. Didn't really want to fight him because he knew there was no guarantee he was going to win. And the one thing he said in interviews, the one thing he doesn't ever want is to be embarrassed, because in this day and age, like, people got memes, and you're a meme, like, for the rest of the world to see, and it lasts a long time and it stays on the internet, all that sort of stuff. So he enacted that to save face. Then I believe that in an effort to get out of that situation, he concocted, or him and his team, including maybe his baby mom, girlfriend, whatever it may be, decided to concoct the story of the domestic abuse. Because how can you train? How can you be in a fight when you've got, X, Y, and Z going on?
you paused again.
I've just noticed, and I'm trying to figure out why that is, because I've got.
Yeah, because this was just getting interesting because I never thought about that.
Okay, well, you guys can watch a black screen while I finish my thought, and then we'll go back to that in a moment. Um, yeah, so he's then concocted it to get himself out of having to train for a fight, having to commit to a fight, and then
Interesting.
as soon as the fight date has now sort of passed, and they've said, "Oh well, we're going to have to cancel," all of a sudden the charges get dropped. You can't tell me coincidences are just coincidences at all times. Um, no later than a week after these charges are dropped, do we get the announcement of Jake Paul and Tank Davis. So all of it, all in all, tells me, number one, Tank didn't really want that fight. Number two, he ain't gonna take that fight after this exhibition, and this is very much a his cash out fight, or he's gonna do this and maybe look for another type of novelty fight afterwards that pays similar types of money, regardless of what happens within the results of this one. Abs, feel free to sort of postulate on my theory while I try and sort out this camera yet again.
Now it makes, to be fair, what you've said. Now that you look at the timeline of it, it does make sense. Often things don't have to be true to make sense, but it definitely does make sense. And if anybody, I guess, has a couple of brain cells, they could potentially come up to with the same rationale. Because yeah, if you look at the timeline as it is, a strict timeline, then yeah, is anything down to coincidence? Because, like you said, coincidentally or not, as soon as that's dropped, then the announcement comes out as if by magic, almost like something was being negotiated in behind the scenes, that the fight's actually announced and we're given a date. Usually we get these announcements based when they say, oh, in talks, or do you know, there's a bit of a lead up, there's a bit of a foreplay before the fight gets announced. But this one was just like straight announcement, here's the date, and you're like, huh? Where did that come from? Where was the negotiation period? How comes we didn't know anything about it? So that also fits in quite perfectly with what you've said, to be fair.
Okay. Now that we kind of have my theory out of the way, the fight itself, obviously, is an exhibition, so it's not an actual fight. It won't go on either person's rankings. I want your opinion on the situation. What's your thoughts, and do you approve slash will you be watching?
I probably won't be watching because of the time delay, but I will watch the highlights. Potentially, I'll catch up on the press conferences. I've expressed my feelings in regards to, Jake Paul wanting to fight Anthony Joshua, and the fact that that's been taken seriously, that we've taken out the traditionalism in boxing where you had to work your way up to fight certain types of calibers. Whether Anthony Joshua is a belt holder or not, he's still ranked within the top 10. And I understand, I like Jake Paul's hustle. I get it. And he's getting his own way. He's doing what he's doing. But from a traditionalist point of view, I don't agree with these sorts of fights. With Javante, he he's entertaining. He's got the attitude. He stings even his own fans on social media. I heard him call one out the other day when one of them was saying, "Oh, I really want to see that rematch with Roach," and he said, kind of like, "Shut the hell up and just continue being a fan." So he's very disrespectful, but in that way, I guess he draws an audience. With him taking this exhibition fight, I'm not really surprised because I'm not sure how seriously he takes his career and if he's in it for to fight champions, to get up the rankings, to be the king of the hill, or just to be the king of like the social media, the popularity. Like he said, he doesn't want to be embarrassed. And he wants that Jake Paul money, which I heard could be paying handsomely well, So no, I don't agree with it. Um, Jake Paul, heavier fighter. What what do we know about Javante when it comes to like opponents? If you look at opponents, Jake Paul's not an opponent, is it? So what is this fight for? What are we going to see? Is it going to end in a draw? We don't know the shenanigans and the background that goes into making these showmen or these exhibition fights. They are what they are, aren't they? And I don't believe that we should take them seriously. So that's my thoughts on that.
Okay. I will. I agree with some of what you said there, definitely. For me, look, here's my thing. Okay, so because it's an quote unquote exhibition, you can get away with whatever. They have them. Oh well, what if the sumo wrestler fought the Wing Chun fighter, or who
Yeah,
can what discipline is better having an exhibition? Muhammad Ali obviously fought Inoki and got his legs kicked to hell, but it was what it was. However, the exhibition itself, the thing between the two of these, right? I look at it from a perspective of the Logan Paul and Floyd Mayweather. So if I'm looking at it from that sense of, all right, well, how did that play out? You had Floyd pretty much carrying Logan, but Logan was able to survive and make it look somewhat credible just for the simple fact he was about 30 to 40 pounds heavier than Floyd. So in this dynamic, I'm going to assume that probably Jake Paul's going to have a clause on him saying that he probably can't weigh more than 190 or 200 pounds.
yeah,
And Tank will probably say, okay, well, you won't weigh more than 155 or something like that.
mm,
The question is, number one, can he? We obviously don't know how many rounds or the amount of minutes per round. Is it going to be
true.
8-2s like the Tyson fight? Is it going to be 6-3s? Is it going to be 8-3s, 10-3s? Like we don't quite know that part. But can he perform at a competent enough level for that amount of time against someone who, while they may be a novice boxer, they are now a credible boxer with boxing training, with
True.
power, with some form of defense and ability, however limited, but also with an additional 30 to 40 pounds and 6 inches of height. There's some variables there, which is what's going to make it appealing to the casuals.
Mm,
Now, this in terms of that, and the funny thing is, in terms of the height differentials, is actually is about the same as what Logan Paul and Floyd was. So Floyd's about 5'7",
yeah,
5'8", Tank's about 5'5", but Logan is like 6'3", 6'2", 6'2 and a half, 6'3", and then Jake is like 6 foot. So the actual disparity between the heights is a very
similar.
similar process. Am I going to watch? Yes, I will watch it because it is an exhibition and it's not a because it's a I do have the casual side of me, and as a casual I will watch it for the spectacle. I'll watch it for the I guess the drama and the stupidity, but also for the fact because it's free on my Netflix subscription. I don't have to pay additional for it.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, because it's on Netflix, it's going to be free, so I
Oh,
don't have to pay anything else, so I might as well watch it. Plus, knowing Jake, to be fair to him, there's the undercard is more than likely going to be a proper boxing undercard, as most
yeah,
of the other events were, and they
yeah.
usually have quite good fights on the undercard. So I will definitely be tuned in from that perspective.
Mm,
The only thing that I want to have addressed to it is I believe the WBA ordered the rematch between Roach and Tank. Which is funny because obviously Roach is the WBA champion at 130. So it's funny that you're not ordering his mandatory at 130, but you're ordering him to fight Tank at another weight and keep his belt at the 30. But anyway, they do what they do. My biggest question is, if Tank is now doing this rather than obligating his weight class and his mandatory and having the necessary defenses, does he get stripped? If he gets stripped, I've got absolutely no problem with the exhibition. I'll watch it and I won't even say a bad word about it. But if he gets to keep his belt
I think he
and do
will.
it, and then be given a further year's grace or whatever they choose to do before having to satisfy a quote unquote mandatory, which I don't think he's ever actually done in any WBA sanctioned bout that he's had from 130 all the way up to 140, whether it's a secondary title or the full title. That to me is where the issue comes, and then the WBA will just potentially bring in they'll have the interim regular title holder or something, and that will be the person that now fights for that instead. That's the one part of it that I'm like, no, no, no. If you're gonna do this, that's
Mm,
fine, but you can't be holding up the division. The same way I had an issue with Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou, even though that was an official boxing match,
mm-hmm.
like with officially sanctioned, even though it shouldn't have been because you've got a 0-0 novice against the heavyweight champion as an actual match. Normally that would never happen. You'd have to at least fight a qualifying bout first
True.
before you get that. They take obviously special dispensation into the fact that he was, the
MMA.
heavyweight MMA champion and was, never lost the belt in the ring kind of thing. So, um, yeah. So the WBC are not above doing those shenanigans, but at least they had a sanctioned bout. But now
Mm.
doing an exhibition while not satisfying your mandatory, having not fought or not likely to fight a WBA sanctioned bout for at least the next year without satisfying the mandatory. That's all I want to know. If you strip him, then I'm good with it.
I don't think
Do
I
what you
can't
want.
see them stripping him. You know.
But that's where I have the problem. If you're gonna
Don't
do
get
if
me
you're
wrong, I
gonna do
might, but
this,
I don't know. I can't see it.
I hear it. But if you're gonna do this, then you shouldn't be holding up the rest of the division. There's
I
people.
agree.
There's you've got people in the WBA. You've got unifications that need to be had. People have been
Mm,
calling for that haven't been met yet. All right,
mm,
let that belt go and let someone else have an opportunity to change their life,
yeah,
because you're about to make what 20, 30, 40 million
easy.
dollars or whatever it is. Like, you don't need to be holding that belt hostage right about now, because clearly that's not what you care about, being labeled as a champion. That's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I can't argue, but I reckon they'll let him keep it. I don't know. It's different over there.
Unfortunately, but look, I guess we can hope for justice and the right things to prevail. If anything, make him a they can quite easily, the WBA, because you know that they love to just throw belts into circulation anyway. Just make him the okay. WBC are the ones that call emeritus. Have him as the BA champion in recess. That's
Where
fine.
the WBA? Hold on a minute. Let me just get this document back up.
Oh
Blah 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 blah. It's funny you should say that. I thought the WBA. Hold on. Where's it gone? Da da da. WBA was it 1962? They were formed.
yeah,
WBC 63, IBF 1983, and
WBO was like
WBO
1992 or something like
not
that.
1988.
Yeah.
So it's really weird that the one that, like you said, creates potentially interims, regulars, is the oldest belt
Mm-hmm.
in the book.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Which is probably why they get away with certain things,
Yes.
because they have
Yeah.
that
Clout.
lineage, that legacy, and that,
Yeah.
yeah. Which is, it doesn't make it any better, but you
No.
know what they say about old money.
Old money.
But yeah,
Fair
look,
point.
I'm saying if anything, make him champion in recess. I ain't got a problem with that. Then if he chooses to come back, he can opt to fight the actual champion for the right to be the recognized champion in the division again. I can accept that. But anything other than that, while you're sort of just taking all this time, and then you just rather throw in another regular title in the picture. I can't really get with that.
Base.
Yeah.
I know it's not off topic. It's slightly on the same topic. Now, I have a household of the younger generation, which you would consider as the casuals. Yes, they watch boxing, and I've been speaking to some of the younger kids that I've been doing some work with in the school, etc. And quite a few of them believe that Jake Paul's going to actually beat Anthony Joshua. They're almost convinced of it.
Okay.
And to me, the mind boggles. But when you look at that casual side, what is it just because the kids love Jake Paul, or because I'm trying to work it out, and some of them are saying no, he's an actual boxer, no, he actually trains, he's got power, he can do it because he's got confidence. Anthony Joshua hasn't got the confidence, and we believe that this is like the general consensus.
Hmm.
We believe that the confidence is what is going to win him that fight, and they were saying it's a dangerous fight, and I'm thinking, what? Can you make sense of that? Is that just kids being kids? These children, sorry, are aged between 14 and 16.
I can make sense of it because if we look at the last images of both people, is Anthony Joshua getting knocked down 4 times by Daniel Dubois in a fight that he was heavily favored to win. So you say, oh well, maybe he hasn't got it no more because he should have smoked Dubois, and Dubois just like beat him up badly for 5 rounds.
Mm,
And then on the other side, you see Jake Paul basically knocking out everyone that he's facing. And then even in his last fight, going, sort of being very, very comfortable with someone else. Say, oh, but he was a former champion, which is obviously part of the marketing. So when you kind of look at that and you say, well, he's on the up because he's improving and Joshua's declining, that maybe there is, maybe he has got the drive and he's crazy enough to go in there and think that he can do it, so he must be able to, and he's got the power, etc., etc. I can see where their minds form it, which is why
mm.
you someone like Jake Paul, and even not even Jake, someone like Anthony would say to himself, well, even if I've got one last run in me for proper stuff, there is enough intrigue in this because it's only the boxing world, the people that actually watch boxing properly, that know that this is an absolute mismatch of the highest order. Joshua does. I maintain. I said it the other day. Anthony Joshua could go have a fight camp for, say, someone like Tony Yoka, potentially win that fight, and then have 2 weeks off, and then go and then fight Jake Paul a week later with no training and still win. Like he could get off the couch and beat Jake Paul, and that's not a disrespect to Jake Paul. That's because the levels are just
Level.
different. So the only thing that would concern you is if he doesn't knock him out in that first minute or two, and then maybe his stamina or his conditioning isn't where it needs to be. That would literally be the only way that Jake Paul survives a fight, is if he doesn't get knocked out in the first round, and Joshua didn't train for the fight, therefore his stamina is questionable. So now he's got to manage every bit of activity he's doing. That's the only process where you can give Jake a chance. You can't give him a chance in the battle of the jab. Joshua's got longer arms than him. You can't give him a power because Joshua's got more power from a straight, and Jake needs to be able to hook a shot through. You ain't gonna have the reach to hook that shot if he's throwing a straight at you. He
Mm.
hasn't got the height advantage. He hasn't got the speed advantage. He hasn't got the technical knowledge, the know-how,
That's
foot
how I see it.
placement, defense. Like everything is heavily weighted in Joshua's favor
That's how
except
I
for
see it.
age and maybe reckless abandon as a younger person, or crazy mentality. Because I think Jake probably has a much braver mentality than AJ, in the sense of, I'm prepared to do this because I'm an idiot, in that
Because I'm
sense, in the
crazy.
best, yeah,
Yeah.
in the best possible way. Whereas everyone knows that the one thing that has always plagued Anthony Joshua is overthinking. Like, oh, every possible scenario. How is this gonna? Okay, what happens if I do? What happens if this goes wrong? I don't think Jake cares about all of that, because ultimately he knows, even if he gets knocked out, which he's in his mind, he probably thinks there's no chance I'm gonna get
Yeah.
knocked out. But even if he does, oh well, I just made 100 million off the back of it. Cool.
Yeah, but the thing is with these kids, this is what I'm saying. This is the evolution of like the fighting audience. They watch both. They watch Jake Paul doing his things. not necessarily the misfit stuff, but then they watch professional boxing as well. But they're just so adamant, and it was so weird. And I was like putting together, obviously, one of my favorite things about Anthony Joshua is the way he puts his shots together when it's multiples, when he goes for you. How well the fighter that I remember that used to put his shots together nicely and throw like three uppercuts in one go. That's what I see, and I just think the skill is just way out there. But this younger generation, they're seeing things totally different to us. But it's an interesting take, and it makes for a really good debate because Jake Paul hasn't fought anybody young, fresh, active. He's been selective with the fighters that he's fought, and albeit AJ might not be as young as he was, he's still dangerous.
Yeah.
We've seen what some of the fighters have said, that it's almost like health wise, ambulances need to be on standby. This could end horrifically. Safety wise, why is this even being allowed to happen when it comes to obviously Jake Paul getting in the ring? But all of this base, it sells the fight.
Mm.
Even though there's some of us that are against it, like me, the conversation around the fight itself gets people talking. I mean, we've spent 15 minutes talking about it here, and it hasn't even happened. There's going to potentially be a delay in it happening because he's fighting Tank. So this is a fight that was initially for January. This is a 2026 fight, not necessarily January, but for 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone that was saying, "Oh, he's ducking AJ," no, he isn't, because that fight was never going to be this year anyway. So
Yeah.
calm down with that. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's,
yeah, but
it's
you can
evolution.
blame Eddie Hearn for people thinking that that fight was imminent because
No,
Jake
he
and
said it
Jake.
was next year.
No. He there was times where he was saying, "Look, it could possibly be the end of this year, or maybe it's like January, February." But
I thought it
Nikisa
was.
and Jake
Yeah,
ages ago said that we're looking. We definitely want to do this fight, and we want to do it sort of towards the back end of 2026. They said that time ago. So when
okay.
Eddie's talking about the end of this year, start of next year, or maybe AJ won't take another fight in between if
Yeah.
it's going to be early, that's him putting all of that out there. Maybe they then told him something a little different, but I saw all the interviews and I'm pretty sure you saw them as well. Not you, I mean talking
So
about Eddie.
yeah, the
Yeah.
viewers. I haven't seen
And
the
then
Nikisa one, but yeah, I've
yeah,
seen the Eddie ones.
so then I'm just thinking, Eddie, that was maybe Eddie just being a bit over, and even though to then say, oh well, we knew about the Tank fight, we just didn't expect it to get announced then. So it's also just like, okay, so then tell us now, actually, what are you doing with AJ? That's that's the main thing that we're. Is he gonna fight? Is he not? Is he checked out, or is he
What?
in sort of just wants this last little thing, and then he's moving on? Is he gonna start promoting other boxers over himself? Like, what is he doing? Just
Football. There's all sorts going on, isn't there? Football's coming to it now, where they're developing a football agency. That's going to take up a lot of time, even
mm,
though 258 do the football side of it as well. But now Eddie Hearn's getting involved, and they're looking at a new business venture. So these are valid questions. Base, as AJ checked out, and that's the most valid question that anybody has asked in a long time. Because to be honest, I don't know what the hell's going on with him. And yeah, we are entitled to know because we're fans, and plenty of us have bought his pay per view or bought tickets to watch him fight. So yeah, if we're following you through your career, yes, we'd like to know what's going on. That's not entitlement. That's just what we are as fans. We should know
mm.
what is he doing, except for MCing in Greece.
And look, yeah, ultimately, if we have the ability to know, then because for some people, like they're gonna look, okay, AJ's fighting, like boxing has almost become less of a working man's sport now, and it's almost a bit like a luxury item.
Yeah,
Well, in that case, some people, maybe the only luxury they get is to go out to an AJ event, so they have to save up, and they have to save for months, so they have to work double shifts maybe to get the extra money. So if you know that he's not about to fight, then you can maybe allocate that extra resource to something else, maybe a family holiday or this or that, or
do
whatever.
make those sacrifices. You're right.
Yeah, at least then you can kind of know how to prioritize yourself. Yes, it's all well and good for the people that have either got a decent amount of money, or that just kind of can get to go to these things with
Willy nilly.
complimentary tickets, like
Mhm.
we can on occasions. We luckily get those graces primarily because we put in the work to do so. But even outside of that, if you was to say, well, I want to know, do I have to keep this weekend free, or can I go away with my kids? Because we haven't had a family
Family
trip away for a
yeah,
while, and X, Y, and Z. Like, let me know what's going on. Is there a likely time hold or
I
not? Is he,
agree.
is he coming or not? And then I can decide, all right, well, who else do I now want to say, okay, if someone else is if I'm gonna hitch my wagon to another truck, who's it gonna be?
Yeah,
And
for real.
then I can factor in how I'm gonna make the money that way, or how I'm gonna make the money stretch. So yeah, I agree. We should know, but ultimately, the good thing is, now that we know that the Jake Paul situation is definitely, no, I'm not saying over, but it's paused, it's parked. Now tell us what's the actual situation. What's going on? Are we getting a fight this year? Are we not? And then from there we can make it make sense to the rest of the people.
There you go. Yeah, but yeah,
And with that, so one, it's a bit of a look. We spoke about it last week, but now that there's been more come out with regards to, I guess, Boxer BBC, still don't understand if exactly the deal, but having seen a couple of Frank Smith interviews, they're definitely adamant that their deal is for 4 shows a year on the BBC, which is not great. I'm gonna be real. I still think that's going to be aside from any additions they have with potential Riyadh or Ring cards and stuff like that. But we've now seen that Vidal Riley has declared himself a free agent, which is quite funny because based on this picture, which we put up on the actual thumbnail, this was his initial signing to Boxer, where he signed it said a long promotional multi-fight deal. And as you can see, I've put the line through the Boxer there to announce that he's no longer with them. But the question now has to be, how has he just all of a sudden become a free agent? Is it because they had an actual date of when, okay, well, if you don't get a fight by this date, or if we don't give you a new contract by this date, then it's over? Did he finish his fights and was waiting to see what he was going to do next to decide if he was going to re-up? Or were they in breach of his initial contract with this whole potential my fights must be shown on Sky Sports? I'm gonna let you pick the bones of this one, because I know you're a bit more in the know about these things than I am.
not necessarily in the know, but I think over the past 5 years, I've got into going to fights, going to shows, meeting people, and I study the promoters and how they work because that's what's interesting to me. Don't know why. That's just my favorite part of it, alongside speaking to the fighters. When somebody's in a long term, like, multi year, multi fight, whatever it is, that's what we're being told. But unless we've got our eyes on the contract and the contract is out there for us to see, pinch of salt is what I've learned. And any contract that may have a loophole in it, if you want to get out of it because you don't believe it's of benefit to you anymore, if you get a very good lawyer, you'll be able to get out of it. Now, I don't know the ins and outs with Vidal. I've reached out to him because I want to speak to him because I was like, yo, what's going on? But this was before he was announced that he was a free agent. However, the free agent, I don't like it because what I'd rather him say is what Mr. Boatsi's done, and I guess maybe you can cover on him. Boatsi does his dealings in the dark, and then he'll come out and announce something. We hear rumblings because we knew that Boatsi was going to leave. We heard about it ages ago. I posted on Instagram, and then I was shot down with a picture of Ben Shalom and Joshua Boatsi, in a loving embrace, and that was like nullified. But I knew that was going to happen because I just knew. But with Vidal, almost like him announcing that he's a free agent would suggest some urgency. And that's how I look into it, because nobody really announces that they're a free agent. They announce that maybe they've departed from one, and gone on to sign something else. I spoke to both Frank Smith and George Warren. So Frank Smith of Matchroom, George Warren of Queensbury. I think Vidal Riley's suited to the Queensbury ethos. I've said that, and I've said that why I believe that online. But as of yet, none of them have, happy to say that they've even seen him or spoke to him. So it's a matter of, okay, these meetings potentially happening. Reading in between the lines, it seems like it's more than likely a meeting with Queensbury rather than Matchroom. But we'll see what comes of that. But to me, as a fighter, if you need a professional, and when I say professional, a really good sports lawyer that you will have to pay quite well for their expertise, but you need to have somebody looking over your contracts and making sure your contract is airtight for you and not just the company that you work for, in case things happen like this, the fallout, the 4 fights a year, potential budget cuts. How am I going to get paid the lucrative amount of money I was being paid before? And I think Vidal has potentially, because of the long-term fight deal, long-term contract, he's potentially got himself a good lawyer that found a loophole, therefore he could escape. And this is all alleged. I don't know. This is me looking at it from the outside point of view as far as the law is concerned.
So, question: why do you believe that Queensbury are the better fit for Vidal?
Vidal, even though he's got the numbers, like I said, with when I see Matchroom as numbers, popularity. They like stars. Ben
Mm.
Whittaker, say for example, is Matchroom every day and night. He suits them. His flamboyance. You can literally see him and Eddie sitting at the top table together. Their egos, their aura, everything that they bring marries quite well. Now I'm looking at Vidal Riley. Yes, he does the numbers. He's got that. I have no doubt about that. But he has this traditionalist approach, whether it's from attaining the belts that he wants or his style of boxing. And I think that aligns with like the Warrens, because the Warrens, I look at Warrens as strategic chess players. They're not the loudest, they're not the most flamboyant, but they sit there and they carefully strategize what they're going to do with their fighters to put them in positions. Prime example, Lawrence Okoli, left boxer. As soon as he signed with Queensbury, he's already number 5, ranked number 5 in, was it the WBC? Correct me if I'm wrong, or the WBA, I can't remember. Already getting ranked. Moses, they've matched him carefully, strategically placed him on the leaderboard as well. They seem to have this way of maneuvering fighters around to benefit them when it comes to the old school way. And that old school way reminds me of Vidal. That's why I put Vidal with them. And that's, like I said, that's just my opinion.
Okay, I hear it. The one pushback to that would be Queensbury have no cruiserweights. So for Vidal to
Yeah.
go over there, who are they going to get to fight?
Alloys and potentially with DAZN,
I mean,
they,
okay, they've got Ellis and they've got Alloys, but
yeah,
they've
yeah.
they've got those two, but they've got no tracked into the cruiserweight titles
But
unless it's a mandatory position.
correct, which is what they're good at putting their fighters into, which is what they do. How many cruiserweights off the top of your head has Matchroom got?
I believe they've currently got four. Um,
So 4 compared to 3. The
well,
zone,
four compared to two, I guess at this point.
well, yeah, if you're not going to
But
count Ellis
not,
Sorrow,
but
but
that's
then,
me not also including. I'm not including Jai in that four. He's
okay,
he's
he
he's
has
the
to be
fifth.
included. Yeah,
Well,
he's,
he's then they've got five, but they've got where their people are. They hold the majority of like, or they held the proper titles. Was kind of the point I was making.
yeah, I get that. But then with Vidal being potentially one of 3 or one of 2, a lot
Mhm.
of tension and a lot of focus will be on him, and they will make fights happen. With Matchroom and Queensbury under the same broadcasting umbrella, and with potentially Eddie and Frank working together as such, potential 5 by 5s, or just making fights easier to make happen. I don't see that solid brick wall that used to be between the fighters. I don't see that there now. I see that those walls are, you can knock them down and you can work together. So I don't see it as who's got the biggest stable, because if you're going to use that logic, Frank's got too many heavyweights because a lot of them are just sat there and not working.
He has got too many.
Yeah, and so with the fact that he's got alloys, you're looking at his, rising star, then potentially if Vidal goes to them, I think it's a better position for them to be in. That's just the way I see it. Because
No,
too many,
okay,
just it clogs it up. You've got Parker walking around doing diss tracks in loving songs. You've got Ajit Kabayel scratching his head, don't know, what's going on. And there's just so many there, and it's like, well, what can you do with all of them? Sometimes less is best.
okay. And remember earlier on, I said if we've got a reason, whether it's strong or weak, it's valid, and that was very strong. So thank you. I just wanted to get you clarification as to why you felt that was the best place.
Yeah,
So you think because he's a traditionalist, he goes traditionalist route.
yeah.
Queensbury is better suited because they do that, whereas Matchroom are just trying to throw you in and see if you can sink or swim.
They're the start. They're like the glitz and the glamour. They're the
That's
I
where
don't
that's where you go to after you've had your apprenticeship, really and truly.
Yes, it's kind of like that. But even with Ben Whittaker, there's certain fighters that just fit their ethos. It just fits. It just perfectly marries. And I'm not saying Ben Whittaker's left. I'm saying if he did,
Hmm.
that's the only place I see that really works for his personality. Because you know what Eddie's going to do? Straight on the plane, you're fighting in America, and he will build him as a British American star. I can almost just see what's going to happen. You know allegedly
Okay. So based on this now, so we know that two people have 100% left.
gone.
We've got one
Yeah,
that's guaranteed actually at another promotion, and one that's just declared himself a free agent. So that's not to say that they won't re-sign, but they're just saying, "Look, I'm a free agent. Whoever wants to talk to me, and
true.
we'll work out the best deal." So he could potentially go back to Boxer, but Boxer now have. So in terms of what we would call, I guess, the big stars.
Yep,
Actually, speaking of which, didn't wasn't Brad Ray one of theirs as
he
well? Now
was.
he's gone to Queensbury too.
Yeah.
Okay, so but we've got of who you might consider the big stars, quote unquote.
Mm.
So Lauren Price, because she's got the Welsh following potentially.
And she's a world champion.
Yeah, Callum Simpson. I
Yep,
was going to call him Smith there.
I
I
do that.
remember that was the first time I saw him. I did that.
I did it
I
too.
had to stop the interview and restart it. It was funny.
I just left
Um,
it in.
But no, Callum Simpson has obviously got the Barnsley thing going on, but I don't know whether or not they class a big star, but he's one of their big stars. You've got Ben Whittaker,
Yep,
and then you've got Caroline Dubois,
yep.
um, and then you've got Adam Azim. So to me, you've
Five.
made
The top
those
five.
five. I mean, Fraser Clark, I don't know if I can call Fraser one of their big stars, but he's one of the guys, I guess, on the biggest money. He's almost like the one of the forefathers of boxer in that sense. So okay, we'll put Fraser in there. So there's six of them.
Okay.
Of those six, realistically, on this BBC deal, especially hearing that Fraser possibly might be fighting TKV in September, which still hasn't been announced or anything. We don't know what's going on there. But of those six, how many of them do you think by the end of this year will still be with Boxer after this thing
I
pans
don't
out?
know. I don't know because we've seen the jibes. Queensbury are demons. Let me
Just
just let me
hold
just
on. Before you, so that you don't get yourself into potentials, just give me a number of those six. How many do you think may still be there after? Then you can go into
I
whatever you
think
want.
Lauren Price will stay. I think
Oh,
Callum
okay,
Simpson will
we give her
stay.
names. Nice.
Yeah, I think Lauren Price. I think Callum Simpson. I don't know about Caroline. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. Don't know. I don't know. On the fence with that one. I think Fraser Clark will stay. Adam Azim. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. Ben Whittaker. Not sure either. So you're looking at three for three.
Okay, cool.
But Queensbury, like I said, they're demons because anytime a boxer fighter is at their shows, they're atting them, doing the winky emojis on their socials. They've done it a couple of times now. Once with Adam Azim, and to be fair, Callum Simpson was there for their Altrincham show yesterday, and they were quick to put that up. Devils.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
It
Interesting
is.
times. All right. So before we close out, I feel like we've kind of suitably gone through a lot of this. Look, with Vidal, I think he's Look, if he's a free agent,
Mm,
I think he'll make the best decision for himself.
you will.
Funnily enough, I don't actually think. Look, if it's four, right, here's my thing about the quote unquote the 4 dates a year, right?
Yeah.
It's not a lot, but Boxer as a whole doesn't have a huge stable. You've
True.
got the smaller, you've got the girls like Fran Hennessy. I think she'll stay because BBC for her might actually be a very positive platform, especially
Sounds
with the
boring.
whole
Yeah.
things like Dancing with the Stars. I think she might actually like that because she does the little dancing to the ring and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see things like that where you maybe build yourself into something later on down the line, like 19, 20 years old. So you little public sweetheart, darling,
True.
and sort of
She's got
trajectory like
that.
that. So I can see her definitely benefiting from a BBC platform. But if their stable isn't that big, right? There is a possibility, a potential where I actually said this the other day. I'm not sure if I did it on one of my streams, but if they got 4 shows,
Yeah.
it is possible to get their fighters out 3 to 4 times a year. Like the way you have to obviously work the shows. Okay, maybe you go on this one, then you go on the
The
third
one
one and the
after.
fourth,
Yeah.
or you go on the first, the second, and the fourth, or the first and the fourth, the second and the third, something like that.
Mm,
But because their stable isn't huge, there is a potential whereby you can have those 4 fight cards a year
mm.
work for you. You get your guys out active, get them out 2 or 3 times a year, guarantee them
Yeah.
obviously those fights and those paydays, and then the public on BBC gets to see those particular fighters. Like
True.
that's who they see regularly.
True.
So they're not seeing this person, and also they don't see them again for like 8 9 months, and then oh they're back.
There
Oh
you
where have
go.
you been? Like you see them every time you have a fight card, they're on that fight card,
Less is
and that
best,
way
babe.
possibly you get this the public sees them 4 times a year, so they stay in the public mind. You increase
Correct.
the level of difficulty in the
It's
fights, or
not all
the
bad.
profile of the fights, and then possibly you can manage it that way. But that only then works if you've got fighters that want to be that active, because some fighters don't want to. It's quite
Shame
clear
that.
some fighters only want to fight twice a year
It's a
or
shame
once.
that is.
Whereas if I ain't gonna lie, if I was a fighter, I'd be wanting to fight like 5 times. That would be me. I'd say like I want 3 big fights, but I want 2 tune-ups in between just to
Mm-hmm.
extra money, if for nothing else.
Mm-hmm.
So if it is for 4 fight cards, that's the way I see it working. Provide if they actually want to keep like the big names on the roster. But if they've got too many big names, then it won't work because obviously you've got to pay all the big names, which you won't have on any individual show budget. But if you've got maybe 1 or 2, I don't see how it's not feasible to get those 1 or 2 out in each card, or like I said, 2 out of the 4, 3 out of the 4, or even 4 out of the 4, and keep that consistent base in the British public's mind on the biggest terrestrial channel that we have in the country, even though it is obviously backed by TV license. But that's the way I kind of see it. I don't know if you want
Yeah,
to sort
no,
of give
I
a
think
thing
I
about
think you're
that.
spot on. And I going back to what I said about the cruiserweights going to with about Vidal going to Queensbury. Sometimes less is best because you can focus on that person, those people. I think the key with the budgets, like you said, it's about paying the fighters. They've got to be really strategic and forward think and business plan in potential getting like sponsors on board. And I'm not just talking about the fighters individually. I'm talking about Ben Shalom and Boxer in line with something core relationships that are with the BBC, something that aligns with that, so they can have that influx of money that will really help, you know, pad out that budget. So they can have, a couple of those name fighters as they build them. Because one of the things that Ben said during his 15-minute talk sport, their interview, was the fact that they want to build the star. They can build the stars, and I agree with him. They can, but let's hopefully Boxer get. I think they've got that prize guy. I'm not sure about Betfred or whatever it is, but that Boxer getting some big sponsors, and I think being on the BBC will definitely help them with that. Because then they can, like I said, they can pad out the budget and potentially attract more fighters should they grow. It's all about how have they forecasted the business. When you look back at like when boxers started to where they are now, do you think they really forecast what was going to happen in those 4 or 5 years? did they really have that forecast, that strategy of where they wanted to be, or was it we've got to get as much fighters, we have to pay over the odds to get them to keep them, and then we'll just see how it goes as it goes along. You've got to have
Yeah,
that
I think they.
foresight.
Yeah, I don't think that they necessarily thought it through. I think they just said, you know, we're on Sky. We need to make this work, and this is the way that we think it's gonna happen. And obviously, the model wasn't
The
sustainable.
model,
I mean,
yeah.
Box are very much PBC-ish in the way that they kind of
Are
came
they?
in with, in not in terms of how they operated, but in terms of the whole. They came in, was given a huge sort of a platform,
Short
big amount of
term.
money based on something that I guess they couldn't, or they tried to they execute, and now it hasn't quite worked out. Now they've had to go move to another agency. Plus, obviously, the fact of PBC was very islandish, everyone within house. Boxer definitely had that part of the model. Whether they accept that they did or not initially, like they were very much, we're not, no one's fighting outside of the off the Boxer Island,
Yeah.
which was something that messed them up initially because obviously they were scared of, oh, if one of our top talents gets beat off brand especially, then that's a big problem. Rather than taking the gamble, because
Taking
maybe
the risk.
if they had done that, that possibly could have held them in better stead with Sky and everything moving forward. But again, that's hearsay. I guess we have to wait and see
Yeah.
where it goes. But it's a good. What I want to make a quick comment to what Alex Bellotti said, and I think this is true. Um, Talking about the Queens, we were just talking about the heavyweights, right? And how there's all these heavyweights and none of them are fighting, but they're the home of the heavyweights supposedly. All right, cool.
Hmm.
Now, Alex has said Queensbury has too many boxers in general. Look how
Okay.
many fighters on Frank's roster are inactive. And he said you sign to Frank and get lost in the shuffle. Even with the Box Nation cards, it's not enough. Ramtin Monsar signed to Queensbury, Olympic rival to Taylor Bevan, who signed to Matchroom. Ramtin fought once. Taylor Bevans fought 4 times. Both signed around the same time. They just signed everyone for the sake of it. I mean, when you look at things like that, and then you look at things like, I mean, like Zhang? We haven't seen Zhang since the Caballero fight. We haven't seen Caballero since the Zhang fight. You know, we had Fabio Wardley had one fight, then
Yeah.
all of a sudden he had to wait a whole bunch of time because he wanted the Ipswich fight. But could he have had another fight in between? We don't know. Now he's on another extended break. We don't know when he possibly will be back out again. Obviously, we've had David just go out recently. Hergovich has been a bit more active. Derek is doing whatever Derek does, so can't really necessarily talk to him too tough. But Dillian as well, obviously got a name, so it's a bit easier to kind of get him out there. The only person that really seems to be like really active is Moses, and
Moses, yeah.
maybe Daniel. You could say maybe Daniel was
Yeah.
as well to a degree, although actually no, you can't because the Park fight didn't happen. And quite frankly, I reckon by that fight not happening, that probably reduced the cost of that card quite significantly. So I can imagine maybe strategically it was necessary for him not to be on that card also. But again, you've got Nelson. They've got Nelson Heiser,
True.
Vladislav Serenko, who obviously got beat by Solomon Dakis the other
Yeah.
day. He had been signed to them for like two and
For
a
a
half
while.
years,
Yeah.
and that was the first fight he had on the card. So you know what I mean? It's like there's just a lot of these guys that are there. Okole's obviously he just had his fight come through. Um, but yeah, there's just a lot of them. It's like I think and the problem is because heavyweights primarily are obviously the most expensive boxers. It's not cost effective to have too many of them on a
On one
card
card.
unless it's a huge massive card, and then even then it still might be counterproductive because then they might want more money because, oh well, we know this is a huge massive card, and unless it's sponsored by a ring or it's a Riyadh season, Frank ain't about to lose. I mean, look, he might be used to kind of losing money on cards and fights from a tactical point of view. He's
Mm.
not going to try and he's going to be putting himself in the red just unnecessarily. So that's why all these people are fighting sporadically. It's like when the PBC they used to give big money to their guys, but
Mm.
they would only fight once a year because that was the only amount of budget they had for that one person because they couldn't get them a second fight for the same money. And that is one of the problems I think that maybe Queensbury might be falling into by having too many top heavy um of the top heavy stars. Hence why a lot of their smaller guys are the heavyweights you're actually seeing on the cards regularly. It's like,
It,
the Davids and the Solomons, and these men that ain't really making super amounts of money. I'm not saying they ain't making decent, but they're not on the top money. They're out every couple of months, and that's why.
well, fair play to Alex and a fair point made. Well, if you look at it, like I said, I don't know what the budgets are. I don't know how much they're paid. But say, for example, when you do look at your fighters and you think, okay, maybe we could do a heavyweight card. You know, you mentioned that boxers potentially having 4 shows a year. Maybe they could do a heavyweight special 4 times a year and then just mix up because they've got loads of shows, whether it's with Queensbury or it's with Box Nation, that they do traditionally they're putting out the shows on the weekends, so we're always watching boxing. I think if you just strategize and potentially put, like I said, have a heavyweight card 4 times a year, budget permitting, and then filter in the other fighters in and between those. I don't know how many fights traditionally Queensbury put out every year. Is it?
We're
I
talking
don't.
about cards.
Yeah.
It's normally about 16 to 18, I think.
Okay, so four of those being heavyweights only. You know, then they can start to. I've always said this. He's got all of those heavyweights. He can start weeding them out. You can start putting them in with each other and literally think, okay, who's worth keeping and who isn't. The cold hard facts. Quite sad, isn't it? But I think that's the way it should be. And then he can get rid of the ones he doesn't want. So then the fighters that he has got, he's got, the majority of the quality. I think him purchasing all the stock makes it easier for him to make the fights, albeit that's not necessarily out in fruition now. But I think if he did that, he could then eliminate not necessarily the bad fruit, but the ones that don't necessarily, they're not going to go anywhere, you know.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I think you see why I just
Star Fox, he's just said he just wants us to put the. He said, "Can we restart the podcast? You've got to
yeah,
get your notifications on, Star Fox. That's not our issue. That's yours. That's a
yeah,
you problem, Star Fox."
indeed, indeed.
And
Well,
Jamie,
look, I mean,
I'm not going to
it's
get a birthday card from Ben. Do you know we share? We're both October. He's the first, and I'm the fifth.
okay. Well,
Interesting.
but you two are nothing alike, so just saying. Okay, well, with that being said, let's leave it on that very awkward note. It's been a great conversation.
Yeah.
We've agreed on a lot. We've disagreed on
Mm.
some stuff, which is always good, always beneficial because we don't just want to be having a love fest for an hour. That's boring. Some conjecture is good.
Save that for Valentine's.
Yeah, once a year is fine. We can handle once a year. But with that being said, look, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much, everyone who has tuned in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe on all of our platforms that you are frequented. Fight Fan TV Live, Danny Glover, as I said, he is at Carnival with the kids and the wife, so that's why he's not here. Maestro is sorting out community funded gym in the Bronx at the moment, which is looking in great condition,
Yeah.
and that's why he's been absent as of late. But you can always trust me to, when we have a show. I think I'm the only. I must have like about a
You're
98%
consistent.
attendance point a
Yeah,
record at
you're
the
the
point.
consistent one.
The one time when I wasn't here because I had no reception on holiday. That was
Oh
it,
yeah, I
I
remember that.
think. So yeah, cool
The
stuff.
early ones, base. I like the early ones. Sorry, it's just
Yeah, but the problem with the
gives
early
you the
ones
rest of the day to
yeah,
yourself.
but you know what the problem with the early ones is, and I can understand why you like it because you get up early. But for someone like me who is up late more times than not, having to watch a lot of these shows, trying to then be up 2 or 3 hours later to do this for an hour
Mm.
is not the easiest, especially with the other commitments that I've now got to deal with. So I prefer the late night ones.
I can't,
I,
just can't do it.
I know. I would. The thing is, I'll do the early ones, as long as I don't have to do other things.
Oh,
But we can look. We can figure it out.
we figure it out.
Yeah, next
That's what we
month. I
do.
think when everyone is back, we can sort of set a definitive time,
Mm.
and then just try and make it work from there. But yeah, look, we'll make that work. I sometimes maybe we'll have to sacrifice the late night boxing shows,
And
which
we'll have to meet in the middle base because I'm
yeah,
back at school. like next week. So it's like I like to get the only it's because it's just routine, isn't it? Because I like to the day not to be interrupted. I do everything in the morning. I train in the morning. Everything's in the morning, and then I've
Mm.
got the whole day to just do what I like. It's just me. I've been like this for like 20 odd years.
Okay. Well, we'll work it out behind the scenes.
We'll do it. We'll
But yeah,
definitely do it.
make sure you subscribe to Fight Fan TV Live. Make sure you subscribe to October Red Media, Base the Kid, the Hardcore Casual. Make sure you subscribe to my show. I promise he will be back on the show. He will. If you're not following us on the old Twitexes, those as well.
Mm.
Again, I think it's October Red Media. Is it on Twitter or is it
October Red UK. I think it's on
October Red
yeah,
UK?
whatever.
Yeah.
Summit.
Maestro A on for him, base the kid. My one is B underscore A underscore S underscore E, and then Danny Glover FFTV on TwitX as well. If you guys are watching from the TwitX, please just jump over to one of the YouTube channels and give it a little like and a comment and a view. If you want, do it on all of them. That would really help out. Appreciate you all. But with that being said, thank you very much for tuning in. We will be back. Not sure if we're back next week, but we'll definitely be back the week. Actually, no, next week we might be back next week because we want to do the little bit of the lead up for Canelo Crawford. But we'll definitely be back the week after, and then the week after that. So September should be
Busy.
pretty busy and booked
Yeah.
for us. So yeah, with that being said, thank you all for watching. Space out. Take care.